How archaeologists find the truth, and you can too. All right, let's talk about archaeologists. Yeah, those people who spend weeks in the dirt just to find a rusty spoon and yell eureka. But here's the twist. What if I told you their dusty little methods can actually help you uncover truth in your own life? No shovel required. Just brain power, patience, and maybe a magnifying glass if you want to go full Sherlock. Archaeologists don't just go digging around hoping to find something cool like Indiana Jones. They start with a question, a hypothesis, and a lot of research. They're not out there saying, let's vibe with the earth and see what happens. They plan, they gather clues, they double check. And that's not just digging, it's detective work with dirt. Now think about this. Every single one of us is surrounded by misinformation. Fake news, fake influencers, fake lashes. It's a jungle out there. And most of us, we scroll, we skim, we accept. But what if we took a page from the archaeologist's book and started investigating instead of just accepting? See, archaeologists find truth buried under layers of time, lies, and sediment. You've got your own layers, assumptions, biases, and let's be honest, TikTok hot takes, but truth. It's there. You just got to be willing to dig. They don't panic when they don't find something right away. They pause, rethink, pivot, try a new angle. That, my friends, is how you should approach anything. Decisions, relationships, conspiracy theories, don't assume. Examine the beauty of it. You don't need a degree or a trowel. You just need the mindset. The courage to question, the humility to admit you don't know everything, and the discipline to search deeper. Whether you're looking for ancient artifacts or just the truth about why Chad ghosted you, the method is the same. Dig deeper, verify everything, and don't stop until you find what's real. Sometimes the biggest discoveries happen when you stop guessing and start investigating. When we think of truth, we often imagine it as something that suddenly appears, like a light bulb moment or a magical realization that arrives uninvited. But that's not how it works, not really. Truth doesn't crash through the ceiling and yell, surprise. It's not something that stumbles into your life. It's something you have to look for. In fact, truth is usually buried beneath noise, distractions, emotions, and half-formed beliefs, and only those who actively seek it carefully and consistently get close enough to touch it. Archaeologists understand this better than anyone. They don't walk into a desert and say, "A truth, reveal thyself." They prepare, they study maps, dig into archives, analyze soil samples, cross-reference historical accounts, and construct a working theory. Only then do they begin their actual search. Every step they take is intentional, deliberate, and thoughtful. This isn't just blind digging, it's focused exploration. And that's the first secret. If you want truth, you have to make effort your ally. Curiosity is the spark that ignites this search. Without curiosity, we live in the prison of assumption. We accept what we're told. We never challenge what seems obvious. But the curious mind doesn't settle for surface-level answers. It pokes, it prods, it wonders, but why? It doesn't just hear a story. It wants to know the story behind the story. This is what archaeologists do with every excavation, and what we can do in our daily lives when we confront information, beliefs, and even our own memories. Careful searching means not just asking questions, but asking better questions. Questions that go deeper, that challenge the source, that explore the context. It's easy to stop at the first explanation we're given. It's much harder to go further and examine whether that explanation holds up. Holds that. Imagine an archaeologist stopping their dig at the first broken piece of pottery and calling it a day. No, one clue leads to another. One piece demands the search for the next. That's how truth reveals itself in fragments slowly over time. Another important element in the search for truth is resisting the urge to rush. Our world rewards speed, hot takes, viral reactions, instant opinions. But truth doesn't function on that timeline. It moves slower, more quietly. It waits for those who are patient enough to sift through the noise, to pause when things seem obvious, and to consider alternate perspectives. Archaeologists don't rush a big site. They take their time because they know that speed can destroy the very thing they're trying to preserve. Truth is rarely flashy. It doesn't always come with a big gotcha moment. More often, it's subtle. It's found in the nuance and the details and the parts of a story that most people overlook. That's why a careful search matters. because the obvious version of the story might not be the real one. Think about how many historical events were misunderstood for decades because no one bothered to look deeper. How many personal misunderstandings persist because no one stops to ask what really happened here? What's also worth noting is that the truth is often inconvenient. It doesn't always confirm what we want to believe. It doesn't always flatter us. And that's why the careful seeker must also be a brave one. Archaeologists don't just find treasures. They find evidence of destruction, collapse, and mistakes. And they report what they find, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. The same goes for truth in life. When you search for it, you have to be prepared to face truths that challenge you. In the end, truth is like a hidden artifact. It's not lying on the surface, waiting to be picked up. It's buried. And digging for it takes effort, patience, discipline, and the courage to keep going when nothing shows up right away. But here's the good news. Every layer you remove brings you closer. Every assumption you challenge, every question you ask, every bit of doubt you entertain, those are your tools. That's your excavation. And the truth, it's waiting for you just beneath the surface. In a world obsessed with being right, archaeologists do something refreshingly different. They start by not knowing. They don't arrive at a site with a script already written or an answer already chosen. They arrive with questions, big ones, small ones, some that may seem obvious and others that might seem absurd. But the point isn't to prove something. They're there to discover something. And that shift in mindset makes all the difference when it comes to finding the truth. Starting with a question requires humility. It means accepting that you don't have all the answers, that your assumptions might be wrong, and that the truth might look completely different than you expected. That's a hard thing for most people to admit. We're trained from a young age to give answers, not ask more questions. But archaeologists understand something powerful. If you want to learn anything real, you have to be willing to look ignorant first. That's why every dig starts with inquiry. They ask, what happened here? Who lived here? Why did this disappear? They don't start with statements like this was a king's palace or this city fell because of war. Those are conclusions, and conclusions without evidence can derail an entire search. A single wrong assumption can lead a team in the wrong direction for years. That's why they remain open-ended. They follow leads, not beliefs. This method applies perfectly to everyday life. How often do we jump to conclusions before asking the right questions? We assume someone is rude instead of asking if they're okay. We assume a headline is true instead of asking who wrote it and why. We assume we understand a situation because it feels familiar. But real understanding requires questioning, not reacting, not assuming, not labeling. Just asking patiently and openly. Asking questions also creates space for new information because new research sheds light on what older interpretations missed. It's not about being wrong, it's about being willing to revise. Planning in a personal context isn't just about organizing tasks, it's about creating space for deeper thinking. If you want to uncover the truth in your relationships, your beliefs, or your past, you need to slow down and design the process. What questions are you asking? What do you need to examine? What tools or sources can help you gain clarity? Just as archaeologists don't dig blind, shouldn't dive into life's big questions without some kind of roadmap. Verification on a human level also means being honest with yourself. It's easy to collect opinions that support what you already believe. It's harder to test those beliefs against reality. Verifying your ideas about yourself, others, or the world requires feedback, introspection, and often discomfort. But that's what makes the eventual discovery so powerful. It's no longer a guess or a wish. It's something that's been examined, refined, and proven. All three steps, research, planning, and verification, act like filters. They separate truth from noise. They transform information into knowledge and knowledge into wisdom. Archaeologists don't just uncover artifacts, they uncover meaning. And that only happens because of the invisible work behind the scenes. If you're willing to do that same kind of work in your life, you'll find that the truth was never hiding from you. It was just waiting for you to be ready to see it clearly. In an age of instant everything, instant messages, instant meals, instant opinions, patience has become a rare virtue. Yet when it comes to truth, especially the kind that matters, patience is not just helpful, it's non-negotiable. Archaeologists know this better than most. They spend days, weeks, even months at a site and might uncover nothing but broken pottery fragments or soil samples. But they don't walk away frustrated. They understand that truth takes time to reveal itself, and rushing the process almost always leads to mistakes. Archaeologists don't just dig in a straight line and call it a day. They work layer by layer, inch by inch, sometimes brushing away dirt for hours just to preserve a delicate artifact. This meticulous process is a masterclass in restraint. If they get impatient and dig too quickly, they risk destroying something irreplaceable. Similarly, when we rush to conclusions or force solutions, we often damage the clarity we're seeking. We blur the truth in our attempt to speed up understanding. Patience also builds resilience. It teaches us to keep going even when results are invisible. Many excavations yield no groundbreaking discoveries, yet each dig, successful or not, contributes to the larger understanding of history. In the same way, even when you feel like you're not making progress in life, emotionally, intellectually, or spiritually, your efforts still matter. The act of showing up and staying present through confusion is a form of progress in itself. It's also worth noting that some truths only become visible over time. What seems meaningless today might connect to something profound in the future. Archaeologists often revisit past findings with new tools and fresh knowledge, revealing insights that were previously hidden. In your own life, the answers you seek may depend on experiences you haven't had yet. Patience allows room for those experiences to arrive and for your understanding to evolve as a result. One of the most overlooked aspects of patience is how it sharpens perception. When you slow down, you notice more. Archaeologists become hyper-attuned to subtle details because they're trained to observe carefully over long periods. In a culture that constantly encourages speed, taking time to reflect, to listen, and to look again can dramatically improve your ability to discern what's real and what's not. An archaeologist doesn't discard a layer without studying it first. Similarly, we must understand where our emotional sediment comes from before we can clear it away. Awareness is the first tool of the mental dig. Ultimately, to uncover truth within ourselves or the world, we have to get beneath the layers we didn't even know were there. It's not enough to trust the first story, the first feeling, or the first impression. We must be willing to dig through biased noise, memories, reactions, and illusions. And only then do we begin to see truth not as a headline, but as something hard-earned, carefully uncovered, and deeply personal. One of the most underestimated parts of discovering truth, whether in archaeology or in life, is getting things wrong. Not just slightly off, but sometimes completely misled. Archaeologists know this intimately, but here's the twist. Those failures aren't wasted time, they're data. They narrow the possibilities, teach new questions to ask, and often point to a better direction. In our personal lives, we're often terrified of being wrong. We associate mistakes with shame, failure, or weakness. But if archaeologists approached their work with that mindset, entire civilizations would remain undiscovered. Truth is rarely found on the first attempt. Most of the time, it hides behind detours and errors that seem frustrating at the moment, but are necessary for progress. Each time we misinterpret a situation, trust the wrong person, or make a poor decision, we gain clarity, not just about the world, but about ourselves. What makes this process powerful is not the mistake itself, but how we respond to it. Do we double down on the wrong idea to protect our ego, or do we adjust our path and try again? Archaeologists don't take missteps personally, they recalibrate and keep digging. Similarly, when we're willing to see our errors as part of the search, not the end of it, we develop resilience and wisdom. Being wrong isn't a setback. It's often the first real sign that we're getting close to something true. Archaeologists challenge assumptions constantly. Just because a structure looks like a temple doesn't mean it was one. It might have been a courthouse, a home, or even a storage unit. Questioning doesn't mean rejecting everything. It means holding it up to the light and asking, is this really what it seems? The practice of asking better questions transforms how we interact with the world. Instead of reacting impulsively, we pause and probe deeper. Instead of accepting the first version of a story, we explore alternative angles. So what does all this mean for you? It means that truth, whether historical, personal, or practical, isn't just something reserved for scholars with fancy degrees or people with shovels in the desert. It's something you can search for every single day. When you stop assuming and start asking, when you stop scrolling and start researching, when you slow down, question your reactions, and challenge your biases, you're not just existing, you're excavating. You're doing the careful, thoughtful work of uncovering what's real beneath the noise. And yes, it takes time. It takes effort. It takes the humility to be wrong and the courage to keep digging anyway. But isn't that what makes the truth worth it? It's not something handed to you. It's something earned. And when you find it, you'll know it's not just a guess or a trend. It's something solid, something grounded, something true. So be curious, be curious, be patient, be bold enough to ask better questions. Because the world is full of buried truths about history, about people, and about yourself. And with the right mindset, you won't just find them, you'll understand them. Keep digging.